Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Underworld Podcast, your weekly source for all the latest breaking Star Wars news, rumors, and discussion. And this week, we are back to talk about The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 3, Chapter 19, The Convert. So much going on in this episode, not to be confused with Season 12 of Andor. It did kind of feel that way a few times, where it was like the New Republic equivalent. And honestly, here for it, and looking forward to breaking it all down here tonight. First, though, introductions are in order in case you're new to the show or you've forgotten who we are. That can happen. My name is Dominic Jones. With me, as always, he's the founder of the Star Wars Underworld, Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? Glad to be here talking about the Mandorlorian. I don't know how you say it, but I feel like I have to channel my inner Stellan Skarsgård. It's like Mandalorian.
The way you said it at first is, I think, what Bo-Katan thinks when she sees Din Djarin. Yeah, you're a Mandalorian.
Yeah, those Mandalorians.
Mandalorians won't take their helmets off.
Yeah, wild episode this week. Can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, a lot going on. Also with us, as always, good friend and co-host Chris Seekell.
I think that when I did introductions last week, I don't even think I said who I was. So that's good that you said that. I think I just went straight to it. It's done. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I realized after the fact. I'm like, hi. I for one am excited to talk about the second season of Andor premiering early. The backdoor pilot within the Mandalorian, as it always does.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, what's a Star Wars season without another show invading this season? It's great, and it's my favorite show that was invading. So I'm down for it. Others might not be, but I am. So excited to give my succinct thoughts on this.
Somewhere Boba Fett's just sitting there nodding, going, "Yeah, see how it feels? Now you know. Now you know." Yes.
My, how the tables have turned in Djarin.
Also back with us from the Raeside, it's Hannah Raeside.
Oh, g'day there. Oh boy, get ready. I wasn't even going to be in the show today. But I was like, there is so much to be said. There is so much to 1v1 about, or 4v, I don't know, how 1v1 times 4. You're kidding. We're gonna have a great discussion. Very interesting episode.
I'm back.
Yeah, we're gonna get into so much. This is like simultaneously like the greatest Star Wars live action ever, but also my most mediocre, in my opinion.
Interesting. Well, I for one cannot wait for this weekend when we talk about the Bad Batch, because I have a feeling I know how it's gonna go. But I'm so excited.
I'm not prepared for that, for the record.
I'm so excited to talk about that episode. But yeah, Hannah, of course, you being the biggest Andor fan on this show, we made you come back for this week.
Because I just love it so much. I had to,
You're like, just give me more Coruscant and people sneaking through hallways and espionage, all that stuff.
Just apartment corridors. Give me more apartment corridors, please.
Well, of course, the
Not
big
at all.
reveal in this episode, Dr. Pershing is Uncle Harlow. I couldn't believe it when that moment came on. I was
waiting for
stunned.
that. I was waiting for that. That was the highlight of the episode.
I mean, well, when you interviewed him last summer, when he said, you said, what's going to be in this season? And he said something you've never seen before. And what he meant was, I'm revealed to be Uncle Harlow.
He is Uncle Harlow.
Wow.
That's the big reveal.
That's what it said in the credits.
That's what we're waiting
and introducing Omid Abtahi as Uncle Harlow.
Uncle Harlow.
Good stuff. All right, we'll get into the convert in just a minute. As always, we want to remind you to punch the subscribe button, Chewie. That's right. Punch it. Don't just click it. Don't tap it. Punch it. And knock your phone out of your hand while you're doing it. That way you'll never miss an episode, because we've been doing like 2 episodes a week lately. So you want to catch both of them, subscribe. That way you'll know when we're live, because we do record the Bad Batch episodes live. We just don't really promote them because we tend to not know when they're going to be until about 2 hours beforehand. And then go live for anyone who's available and who are subscribed and have the little notification bell thing on there. I think you're supposed to have a ding when you talk about that. So ding. And also subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to listen after the fact, join the Discord to keep the conversation going. And check out the larger Star Wars Underworld network, which includes great shows like the Raeside Ion Cannon, Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, and much more. All right. How do I take this banner out? That's the one. Okay, let's go. You can tell I'm not used to doing this part. Let's go. Let's talk about chapter 19, The Convert, written by Noah Clure and Jon Favreau and directed by Lee Isaac Chung. And yeah, it's the Dr. Pershing and comms officer. She finally has a name, though. It's their episode, their week to take over the show. Well, Bo-Katan and Din Djarin take a little bit of a backseat, but not really. Not to the same extent that Boba Fett did on the Book of Boba Fett. So let's kick things off, give some initial impressions of the episode. Let's go around the table. And Ben, as always, going to throw it to you first.
Yeah, so I went on the biggest emotional roller coaster with this episode. I swear. It was nuts because, like, obviously going into this episode, like seeing like one of the best like in atmosphere like dogfights we've seen in modern Star Wars, like, was amazing. And then going to Coruscant and seeing all that and picking up with Dr. Pershing, which was great. And I've been wondering what he's doing. And then we get the comms officer and they get names and all this kind of stuff. It's great visual spectacle. And I honestly, like, just overall, I think this episode was one of the most visually stunning episodes we've gotten so far. In regards to not just from Coruscant looks beautiful. It's just like how they move the camera, the sets, how things are positioned in the scenes. It doesn't feel like they're just like, oh, it's someone standing in front of the volume. It's, oh, this is an actual, feels like a place. It feels like there's an atmosphere to it. The camera moves in front of a pole or something like that. It has shots of people's feet so you can see the floor. And it's really, I think this is a well shot episode. I think ultimately the production value, I think, is really showing in this episode. That said, the story tripped me out. First of all, just because it gets to the end and it's just like, wait, what's going on? What's happening? Like, I was genuinely confused, and it wasn't just kind of sitting with the episode, watching it a couple more times and kind of watching some other people's takes and hearing people's ideas about the episode that I kind of got it. But I was just like, overall, like, they could have there was maybe 1 or 2 scenes they got to cut out. Maybe it was dragged a little bit too much. It's like one of the longest episodes of Mandalorian we've got so far. And it did drag a bit, I think. The story and the characters, I think there's just a few too many scenes of people just talking about, like, hey, should we do the thing? I don't know. Should you do the thing? I'm like, just do it. Just do it. Just get on with it. So, like, I think there's some great acting. I think Omid Abtahi and Katie O'Brien did amazing work in this episode. And I'm really looking forward to obviously seeing where this goes. But it took me some time to grow to love it. I do really like the episode. I do have some qualms with the pacing, I guess.
Okay. Fair enough. Hannah, what about you? Your thoughts on chapter 19?
So this is the part of the show, if you're listening to this podcast, that you need to be watching the YouTube, the live visual broadcast of it, because the best way I'm gonna demonstrate what I thought of this episode. I think the best way to do it is with a fresh packet of Oreos.
Oh God, not this again.
And you know what is great about an Oreo? It's a sandwich. It's a cookie sandwich, right? You got a beginning, you got an end.
Delicious. Yeah.
And what I thought of this episode,
oh my God,
if you get rid of the middle, and you
You
just
could do
left
that with an Oreo.
with the cookie, that's good. That's good stuff.
So wait, you
and
want
then-
to get rid of the filling in between?
Yeah. Well,
What?
not get rid of it.
What
That's
kind
dramatic.
of monster are you?
You're saying that the episode has no padding.
I'm saying in the middle part, I prefer the cookie part than the cream part.
Okay.
That makes sense,
Hold on
right?
one second.
So you like
hold on
this
one second.
episode?
So hold on one second. Are we talking? Are we talking metaphorically or literally? Like, would you rather just have two of the chocolate wafers, or are you just saying you like the Mando and Bo-Katan parts?
Yes, there we go.
Okay.
Yes, the cookie part, the beginning and end of this episode,
Yeah.
was my favorite part of this episode. In the middle, I can easily go without it.
Interesting.
You
Yeah. Okay,
the
but
filling
also
out of Oreos?
So when
And
yeah,
a cookie?
not daily, not like that's how I
The
eat
most
Oreos.
sack.
I'm just still amazed that she pulled the filling out of an Oreo. I didn't know that was possible.
Is it?
My
Is
mind
that
is
cool?
blown.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
that
I was
was-
like,
I mean, it's
practicing
possible
That
for
was
you to eat
impressive.
that.
Yeah.
that was impressive. Yeah.
To take it out.
But okay, yeah, okay. Get real, Hannah. Yeah, okay. All right. So the first 11 minutes of this episode, and it's almost exactly on the 11-minute mark. I went back and looked. Was I could argue that was my favorite live action Star Wars production value. Like everything you were saying, Ben, the production value of it was just incredible. Like super smooth, clean, great acting. Everything was great. Then we jump to Coruscant. We get the great Coruscant just vibe. It felt like a remastered prequel scene. It was really, really cool. And then obviously seeing the opera building was just amazing. I just got shivers seeing that. That was really, really cool. And even that exact same shot of the red stairs in where Anakin ran up. That was just for prequel fans, which we all are, just great, just spine tingling. The Pershing stuff I'm so hot and cold with, because I actually really liked it.
Okay.
But I felt so funny about it, and by the end of it, I was really positive until it ended, because I was like, I actually haven't learned anything. I like, maybe I'm just not absorbing the story like correctly. Maybe I need to look into what it actually meant. I don't know what the hell's going. Like, is he working for the? He doesn't want to be the Empire anymore. Is she working for the Empire now? The Empire remnants, or like, I'm really lost. I can't even come up with a theory on
not
like
super
what
clear.
that means. Yeah. So I really struggled with that. So that really brought it down for me, because I was like, okay, Pershing's like cool character building somewhere. But then I really was just like so lost. I'm like, the bloody Mon Calamari is like talking like a goofy over here, like being like, oh, well, we'll have your mind wiped. And he's like, okay. And then I'm like, well, what? Who's working for who? What the hell is happening? And then the other episode was really interesting with like Bo, like joining the gang again. It was really weird. I don't know. So hot and cold, good and bad. Let's discuss.
Yeah. Elia Kane, definitely a triple agent. So I'm going to say she's
Yes,
sort of,
yes.
she betrays one person to
For you,
some people,
absolutely
but
not,
she's
because I work for them, but I don't actually, because I work for the other ones. You're like, so what the hell?
Yeah, there's definitely more to be revealed there, and I think we'll see that as the season plays out. Chris, over to you. Your both your initial impressions and your final thoughts and score out of 10 for the episode, because you have got to go.
Yes, I haven't slept in 2 days, so I'm going to save everybody what would happen if I kept going late into the night on this episode. Not happening this week. But yeah, I've seen the episode once. Probably something I'd like to see again to have more detailed thoughts. But my first impression was it was incredibly entertaining and incredibly suspenseful because I didn't know what the heck was going to happen. And I kept seeing all this stuff that was just really cool. Just like Anna said, the beginning of the episode was an amazing action sequence. And then the rest of the episode was just all this Coruscant lore stuff that I've wanted to see in other things for a while. And it's finally there. I felt like this kind of handled Coruscant in a way that I wanted to see it in the sequels. So I thought that was cool. I almost pulled you guys with this episode because I did hear the Mandorlorian hype prior, and I could have sworn that Mon Mothma was going to show up.
Oh, yeah.
And I was very disappointed that that didn't happen, but that's fine. That's on me for assuming things. And accidentally opening Facebook before watching the episode. But yeah, I just adored all the Coruscant stuff. It's my favorite planet, and I love that we got to see so much of it. And like it has been said, it was so stunning. And I thought the story was really engaging and interesting. And it definitely was more the Andor pace, which I personally like. Not everyone does, but I do. And it really had an Andor message to it by the end as well. This kind of idea that the establishment is still a bit of the enemy, even when it's not necessarily the enemy. And so I don't know. I don't know exactly where they're going with this, but I feel like one of the messages of this episode is that, you know, the New Republic isn't exactly fantastic. And I thought that was a really interesting take on the political situation, and a take that I really wish we had seen in the sequels, because it would have made a lot of things make more sense. Like, why the heck does First Order even exist, and why does anyone support it? Well, if the New Republic is going to be like this, I kind of understand a bit about why you radicalize people against it. So, yeah, I thought this episode was great. I think that a lot of pieces seem like they're going to be necessary for future plot and the show. I don't feel like it was like a throwaway episode. And I think it maybe dragged on a little bit. Maybe it was a lot of stuff in that episode. Maybe it could have been two.
You've been saying you want episodes that are this length for years. For years,
yes.
This has been your
yes,
criticism of Mandalorian.
Yes.
And then we get one, and you're like, no, it was too long. It dragged on for me.
Oh yeah, if it's one topic, yeah. So what I mean to say is that there's a lot smushed in here, and it was a bit jarring to have two completely separate stories that aren't related in the same episode. Like, that didn't make sense to me. I almost would have remember last week ended in a very odd cliffhanger. I feel like it would have been that cliffhanger did not pay off in this episode. So I would say they should have just made last week's episode way longer. I had to finish it out with all of the Bos Castle getting blown up stuff, and then this whole episode should have been just Coruscant. That's how I would have paced it.
That's a good point.
I don't like how they paced that, but I'm not going to fault them too much, because, you know, binge watching it, it's the same difference, you know, where the stuff is. You get in the same order either way. There's just not a title card in a different spot. So it's cool. So, but yeah, for the pacing reasons, I will say it's perfect. So I'm going to give it 9 out of 10. Really good episode. Solid. Lots of interesting stuff. Looking forward to maybe some of the stuff playing more into the season, so I can talk about it more in depth when I'm not incredibly exhausted and can articulate well.
All right. Go to bed. Be gone.
Good night.
Good night. Don't kill the
Good
show.
night, goodbye.
Don't kill the show.
I almost did.
Yeah.
I'm taking him out.
We're still here. We're still here. We survived.
I'm just waiting for the broadcast ended sign on the screen.
I don't want to see a thumbs up, a thumbs down sign.
For anyone that doesn't remember, when we did our review of the Bad Batch season 2 premiere, Chris was in a similar situation where he was coming from. It was recording from an unusual location, and when he went to leave the show, instead of leaving the show, he ended the show, and we had to start up a second broadcast to do the majority of the conversation. But yeah,
classic.
For
so good.
Yeah, for me, I loved this episode. I thought it was terrific. I agree with a lot of what Chris was saying about the New Republic stuff being the stuff that I've wanted to see for a long time. But I also think the Bo-Katan Din Djarin stuff balanced it out nicely, and there's some and this episode added a new layer to what's going on with those two, and it's a layer that I probably should have been expecting but wasn't, and I'm excited about it, and I think it's gonna make this season all the better, and it really makes me excited for next week and probably the week after, where I feel like they'll sort of pay that off. But yeah, terrific episode. I couldn't watch the episode right away, so I saw a lot of the Mandorlorian stuff going on, and I also thought that Mon Mothma was going to be in the episode, but I still think Mon Mothma is going to be in the season.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
I think that was me. That was all me.
No, it wasn't all you. It wasn't all you, because I also saw Hannah's this episode without spoilers post. And
I just went rampant, didn't I? I was like, "Oh, this is what this is like."
No, but see, I also like, I like seeing that stuff ahead of time a little bit, because I think it's kind of funny to sort of guess at, and I also don't care about spoilers, so that's why I go on Instagram and whatever.
Yeah, there's something's wrong if Dominic Jones complains about spoilers. I got spoiled on something.
Yeah. Well, look, if I really don't want to know, I'll stay off. I will avoid it. I know how to avoid the stuff if I want to, but
did you see my out of context photos?
Yes, that's the one.
That's what you saw? Yeah.
Out of context.
That's quite direct.
Yeah,
but is it fun trying to piece together what it is?
Oh yeah. Oh, I did not guess. I could not figure out what the hell was why Steve Jobs kept showing up in those things. Or TED Talks. I'm like, what is that? What? Where is that? And then as soon as we got to the Opera House, I'm like, oh, now I get it. Right. Now I see it. All makes sense here. All makes sense here. But it was funny. I was talking to a friend of the show, Chris Abbott, over the weekend. We were doing some planning for our celebration panel. And we were just catching up, and he goes, wouldn't it be funny if after the Mythosaur cliffhanger, we just didn't come back to Bo and Din this week, and we just did a Coruscant storyline? And I thought, oh, that's so funny, but that's never going to happen. And then I went and looked at Disney Plus in the morning, because long before I could watch the episode, and I saw the description of the episode was like 2 Imperials try and redeem themselves in the New Republic. I was like, oh my god, Star Raptor called it. He nailed it. And then the episode begins with Din and Bo, and I'm like, oh wait, no. Well, he still did, but not exactly the same. Not exactly that. But let's start with the Din Djarin Bo-Katan stuff, because we do pick up right from the cliffhanger, and apparently the Mythosaur's just like, no, I'm gonna stay in my pool. You guys bothered me, but you left, so you kids get off my lawn, but I'm not gonna chase you.
5 more minutes.
Yeah, he's hit the snooze button. What were you guys? Hannah, I'll throw this to you. Were you surprised that we didn't sort of open with a big action sequence against another dinosaur?
Yes, I really, really was. And again, I was like, why do we never learn that we get all our expectations up and then get disappointed when they don't get real? Because for a week, on social media, my channel, I was asking, oh, who's gonna defeat it? What's gonna happen? Are they gonna defeat it this episode? Is it the Darks gonna kill it with the Darks? Having all this great conversation around it, which I think eventually will get paid off. But it was, I was pretty disappointed that they would just kind of Din woke up and he's like brushed himself off, and then she's like, do you remember? And he's like, no. And they were like, all right, let's get out of here then. And then it was just, I don't know, a little bit let down.
Yeah, she really forced the issue of getting out of there. She's like, yeah, you're redeemed. You're redeemed. It's fine. Let's get out of here. Shoot, let's go. Not hanging around here. Who knows what's in those depths down there.
Right.
Do we think this is something we're going to come back to? Is this Schrodinger's Mythosaur that now that they've introduced it, we've got to come back to it? Or is this just kind of
it'll never come up again?
No, I can start to tell when you're being sarcastic now, Ben.
Yeah.
The other week, When you practice. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, Chekhov's mythosaur. That's what I meant. Now that we've introduced it, are we gonna come back to it? I mean, honestly, I could see a version of this where they leave this for quite some time, like maybe not even this season. We don't.
All right. Okay, Favloni. We're gonna have to talk about this if this actually happens.
I mean, eventually, yeah, it'll happen, but I could leave it for a little while.
It actually makes sense in retrospect, looking back, because I think I didn't like it wasn't a fully formed thought, and obviously they didn't say it, but I was thinking like, the fact that they revealed at the end of the episode, like you're either gonna have it like teased and then you're going to immediately pay it off, or you're gonna leave it for a while. And I think the fact that we saw it at the end of that episode, that was all we're gonna get for a while, and they're gonna go back to this, and it kind of goes back to what a lot of people are thinking, including myself, which is like Mandalore was kind of the end game that we're going to get there till the end of the season. Well, we got to Mandalore, but we're not finished on Mandalore. And I think this mythosaur is going to be out of the picture. It's the Han Solo effect of now they're going to trick us. Now they're going to be like, oh, don't forget about the mythosaur. Go do this other thing. Go on this adventure. And then when you least expect it, Han Solo or the mythosaur shows up in the Millennium Falcon and saves everyone.
I just hope that like the climax of the season isn't taming the mythosaur. I really hope that's not what all of this is building.
Because that was literally the climax of Boba Fett.
Yeah, it was all building to the Rancor. I think that'll be an important moment in the season, but I just hope it's not the apex of it.
But I think what they're doing now is they're bringing characters together, doing some interesting things character-wise, and ultimately it's going to be more interesting when the mythosaur shows up, because it's going to rock everybody's world. And Bo-Katan, obviously, as we pointed out, is holding this close to her chest. So, she knows, and now she's going to be working and it's going to be this push and pull of like, she helped Din, she saved his life twice, but she still wants that throne. She still wants to be in charge. What's she going to do? And what's she going to do with the mythosaur?
Yeah.
My take is that I think the mythosaur is going to be the main thing that's like the story for Bo, where she'll probably go off to fight it by herself and not tell anyone. And then somehow like Grogu will like know or something she's in trouble. And then all the Mandalorians there of this little hideout will go and save but not save Bo, but also but kind of be there, and then they all defeat the mythosaur.
So
all together. And that's what
it better not be any of the Mandos from that covert, because they all suck at fighting a beast. Okay, get some
really
reinforcements, guys.
They really struggled.
They had a hard time with it.
Also,
So
what's with Mandalorians having like meetings or special or like important things to do on a shoreline where a giant monster is, like in that water? Like, what's their deal with that? Come on.
that's just their vibe. They're like, we love the danger of it. We want to be near the water.
It's very Crocodile Dundee. It's very Steve Owen. If you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna stand next to this water with a crocodile in it.
Crikey, we got a live mythosaur here.
Oh, we need an Australian Mandalorian. Oh my god, that'd be amazing.
How has that not happened? But Hannah, can you give us a crikey? This is the way.
You gotta pay for that. No. Crikey, this is the way.
All right, there we go. All right, that's the show, everybody. We'll see y'all next week.
There we go. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. Apologies to you, Hannah, and to the entire nation of Australia for that.
Exploiting our language.
But let's talk about the we'll come back to the bombing of Bo's castle in a bit, but I want to talk about this meeting of the Mandalorians, where Din and Bo show up at the covert. What is it? It's a covert. I don't know. I can never tell what he's saying at the group meeting.
I always forget too. Is that yeah? I don't know what the word is. Covent.
I don't know. And it doesn't help that this episode is called the convert.
That's just called.
Yeah, that's really confusing.
Convert. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever.
But so they show up at the gathering of the Mandalorians, And, Din proves that he's redeemed. They pour the water in. And something I wasn't expecting for this season is that the armorer also deems Bo to have been redeemed and welcomes her into the crew. And I think this is we've talked a lot about Din Djarin having his beliefs be challenged over the course of this season. And oftentimes we say that they're being challenged by Bo-Katan. And this episode, I think, turned the tables a little bit on Bo, because now I think we're starting to see her beliefs be challenged, which I think is a good thing, because, for as much as there is wrong with the, fundamentalism of Din Djarin's, beliefs and the children of the watch, and this is the way, and don't take off your helmet and all that stuff. For as much wrong as there is with that, Bo-Katan's cynicism isn't exactly the greatest thing either. That's not the way either. And I think the beginning of this episode, where she's asking him about the mythosaur and then, tries to get him to leave as quickly as possible, I think something has changed in her. She didn't believe in the myths. She didn't believe in the legends. She didn't believe in the way. And then she came face to face with living proof that there is some truth to it. There's always a bit of truth in legends. And now she's grappling with it. And the moment at the end of the episode where all of the other Mandalorians are like welcoming the two of them in, and they're, going around and patting each other on the armor and all that stuff. We've never seen on this show Bo with that many Mandalorians. She had Koska Reeves and Axe Woves, and for a little bit last season. And this season, she's been by herself. She's been sitting on that massive throne in that massive throne room all alone. And now all of a sudden she's surrounded by people who are welcoming her into their cult. But, we'll leave that part of it aside. But, she's surrounded by other Mandalorians who want her there or are accepting of her being there. And I think for Bo, I think that's a bit of an eye-opening moment that, maybe she has to be a little bit more open and tolerant of other people, because I think she wants, for as much as she hates this is the way, or has mocked it at the very least, I think she's wanted everybody to do things her way. And maybe she's got to come to realize that, her way isn't necessarily the way either. And that there's got to be some sort of middle ground between what she's doing and her kind of sort of cynicism and the fundamentalism of the Children of the Watch. And I think we're starting to see her grapple with that, as we've seen Din Djarin grapple with, his beliefs, especially in the back half of season 2, when he started to take his helmet off because he was so desperate and he was willing to, put those things aside. So I think there's a lot going on here that is, like I said, it's adding interesting layers to this relationship and this dynamic between the two of them. And I don't think we'll be seeing Katie Sackhoff's face next week. I think it's staying under that helmet for at least a week, if not more. But at some point, perhaps it will. The issue will be forced. This helmet issue will be forced again. But for a little while, we might just have Bo-Katan as a happy member of the Children of the Watch, which was not expecting that coming into this season.
Yeah, it's interesting how, you just think about it, the fact, like, what is the mission of this season? Like, what is the ultimate goal of our characters? What would like make all their lives much better and would kind of get closer to achieving their goals? Well, bringing Mandalorians together. Din says in the last episode that our people are scattered like stars in the galaxy. Like, their main problem is that they thought their planet was cursed and they couldn't get all the people together and they're in exile. The whole point that Din is in this cult is because he's been isolated with this band of people that couldn't go back to their homeworld. Well, now they can. And not only that, Bo-Katan has also been isolated. And she's someone who, in her own way, has kind of been, she's kind of been believing her own hype and doing all this stuff, and has obviously a massive entitlement complex, but also has not been surrounded by Mandalorians, or maybe not. He's either been has been kind of looked up to. Now she's among peers, and it's going to do them all a lot of really good just sit around and talk to each other. That's what I love. Going back to Last Jedi, one of the brilliant things that movie does is that it makes two characters that really hate each other, Rey and Kylo, it forces them to talk. It forces them to sit down and talk and work out their issues, and they do. And this is another situation where it's just like now they're all together, and now they can just talk and they can play off each other. And as epic as it would have been in Bo-Katan, like, the armor, I knew you were here, and just like it turns into a brawl, that would have been epic. Like I would have loved to see the armor and Bo-Katan go at it, and they may still do, but I more want to see them have a conversation and see where that goes. And I think they both can do some good to that. And I think, it could lead to I don't think Bo-Katan is going to buy into never take your helmet off. I think it'll lead more to, maybe at a pivotal moment, Bo-Katan will be like, screw you, I'm taking this thing off, I'm hot. And, so it's all that. So I think there's a lot of interesting stuff. I didn't expect them to do this, but now that they're all in place, you have the armor, as narrow-minded as the armor is. She sees Bo-Katan, she's like, okay, yeah, you're part of the family. You went and had a bath, so I like you now.
You went for a swim. Now you're all good. Also, apparently Mandalorians go swimming with their armor on. We didn't talk about that last week, but that's apparently how they do it. Yeah. Oh well, it's Star Wars. That's how it goes. As we've been talking, a theory has been brewing away in my mind. That's all I'll share with you.
Theory.
Yeah. Now, I saw on Reddit, someone had cut together all the remaining footage from the Mandalorian trailers.
Right.
And it looks like the children of the Watch are going to Navarro. So I think we're going to see a real team building exercise at some point in the next couple of weeks, with everybody going to Navarro to liberate it from what's that guy's name? Shorian Grand or Kel Makar?
Gorian Shard.
Gorian Shard from the Pirates.
What do you say? Sharian Gord.
Sharian Gord, yeah. That's what I'm going with. I'm sticking with that one. I think there'll be some pirate action in the next couple of weeks going up against the Mandalorians. But at some point in that case, like you said, Ben, Bo-Katan's helmet's coming off, whether it's intentional or unintentional. And to then prove herself to the other Mandalorians, she'll head back to Mandalore to tame the Mythosaur. And Din Djarin will say, hey, everybody, this is crazy. We can't let this happen. She will die if she does this alone. And the Mandalorians will come together and tame the Mythosaur as one, as it was in the olden times, in the songs of eons past, as the armorer would say. And that'll unite the Mandalorians, and they'll be ready to fight as one and put their differences aside. And some of them will keep their helmet on because that's how they're comfortable. And other ones will go, you know what? Helmet's coming off from time to time. Let's make that happen too.
The songs of eons past saying, I feel like that's the Mandalorian's version of what is it? Do it all for something real. I feel like that's like I keep hearing that as songs of eon past. I feel like that's the catchphrase in all the trailers.
Right.
It's a good line. I think it's I like that one.
Just thinking aloud here, like I'm wondering now that they have access to their magic swimming pool again. What's to stop them?
They would have a really good Olympic swim team, I bet.
What's to stop them from just if you're a Mandalorian and you're part of the Children of the Watch, just go down to the pool and just go, oh yeah, okay, great. Take all your armor off, just have a nice day, and then just put it all back on, walk into the water, come out, you're good. You're good. You're redeemed. What's to stop you?
You've been cleansed.
Maybe this is an interesting actually, Ben, were you talking about this the other day? A bit of a mirror to modern Christianity.
Don't get me started.
Yeah, just pray about it, and you're perfectly great again. This whole sin redeeming is very.
I mean, it's baptism, straight up. Baptism is a part of.
It's like, okay, so can you just do bad things again and just keep having a dip every couple of weeks? It's like, okay, is that how it works? Yeah.
if that's all it takes, all right.
I mean, well,
I got some murders to commit.
Din Djarin, like, is straight up like saying like, oh yeah, the creed speaks of, I think he says forgiveness or whatever. Like he may as well be quoting the Bible and saying, oh yeah, the Bible teaches forgiveness. The Bible speaks of forgiveness and stuff like that. Yeah. Like there's a lot of stuff in here you could go straight for the interesting. For the religious.
Well, so this is where I was talking about with Bo-Katan, kind of like, having her beliefs be challenged, because obviously she's right about that water. Like, yes, you pour it in the other water and it makes pretty colors, but really that he did nothing to redeem himself, right? Like I thought the whole journey to redemption in the waters of the mines of Mandalore would be some like deep, difficult spiritual journey, and instead it's just, get into the city, test the air quality, fight a couple of monsters, and get down to the mines and go for a swim. Like that's all it was. So like that, like you said, really doesn't actually he's not actually atoning for anything there. So that's where Bo-Katan is right, in that there's a certain nonsense to what the Children of the Watch are talking about. But the community and the sense of belonging that the Children of the Watch bring to one another. And I think that's what Din Djarin has been craving more than anything else. I don't think, the whole helmet thing, that's just a proxy for wanting to be part of something bigger than yourself. And I think that's what Bo has also been lacking, and she's just not been interested in finding it from the Children of the Watch. And so this is where, she's right about the water, but she also isn't appreciating the other side of what this cult brings to people, and the positive role it can play. And so she has to find, if she wants to actually unify Mandalore, which she said she did, then she has to find some way of getting people to buy into that community without relying on some of those sort of very arduous rules, like never taking off your helmets, and some of the sort of, myths that they believe in, like these waters hold special powers, while also acknowledging that there is more to the galaxy than we know, because she didn't believe in a mythosaur until she came face to face with one. So if go ahead, Ben.
No, I'm just thinking, I think maybe from Bo-Katan's perspective, I think especially from Din's perspective, I think Din obviously is kind of, he wants it, he wants to be back with that covert because that's all he knows and that's his family. But also you have to look at it logically of like, if he's going to rule Mandalore, if that's even something that he wants, he has to be quote unquote redeemed. Otherwise, they're never gonna follow him, and they're never gonna listen to him. And same thing for Bo-Katan. You have to, and that's maybe a psychological trick of just like people will agree with someone or be more open to something when they think the person agrees with them, when they think you're on my side. If you're automatically villainizing someone, you're checked out. You're not going to listen to what they're saying. And you see the way the armorer treats Din prior to him being redeemed. It's like, get out of my, basically just get out of my face. You removed your helmet. You're dead to me. Get out of me. So now we have this scenario where they're both like, oh yeah, come on. You both took a bath. That's great. Let's have a party. Like that's a recipe for like now. And I would go so far as to say I think Bo-Katan may like try to like take a part of the covert, or like, like she could develop her own followers within that group and cause a schism, maybe. I don't know.
Oh man, Bo-Katan and her schisms, just like she did in the Clone Wars.
What was that word?
That's how you say it.
Schisms.
Schisms. That's the word. That's a split. When
chasm.
No,
don't tell me you're talking about a chasm.
No, not a chasm. Chasm's like a big hole. A schism is when one group breaks apart. When a group
this
breaks
is
apart.
a brand new word to me.
Whoa. See, you'll learn new words from me and how to pronounce them from him.
A schism.
And then you learn
split
both
or division of between strongly opposed sections or parties. Yeah, that's what is happening.
A
yeah,
schism.
wow.
Yeah.
A schism.
Schism. It's a good word.
Wow.
Good word.
Sorry,
Strong
continue.
Word. No, it's good. All good.
Wow.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Empire blowing up Bo-Katan's castle. Because that's the part of the episode to me that seems to most come out of nowhere. Like,
it's kind of random, kind of unhinged.
It just sort of happens.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's just like they're coming back from Mandalore, and is it just a coincidence that the Empire just happened to be like, you know what? Today's the day we bomb Bo-Katan. And she just happens to not be home. Is it one of those situations? Like, and who sent the TIE fighters or TIE interceptors? Excuse me. That's the one part of the episode where I was a little bit. That's the one part of the episode where I'm like, we didn't need that information. You don't have to explain the difference between TIE fighters and interceptors.
I will say it's a pretty bold and ingenious tactical move to draw Bo-Katan and Din away from the castle and then bomb it. Something that maybe someone with some a brilliant tactician may do that if they wanted to. Now, why they want to bomb the castle, we don't know. Maybe it was tried to kill Bo-Katan, but I don't know. But definitely some strategy going on there, and just like, you know, who's got all these, you know, TIE interceptors? Like, these are supposed to be like specialized fighters, and there's a bunch of them. And Bo-Katan's like, that's a lot of fighters for an Imperial warlord. And like, yeah, that's a good point.
So you think this is Thrawn?
I think Thrawn is behind everything. Of course, it sounds like I'm loony. Okay, it sounds like all of us sound crazy, going like, oh, it's Thrawn, but like, no, this show told us Thrawn's out there somewhere, like told straight up Thrawn is coming. So, you know, yeah, of course we're gonna theorize and say maybe it's Thrawn, and I think, you know, Thrawn is not working for Moff Gideon. Thrawn is his own man. He's pulling the strings.
What beef does Thrawn have with Bo-Katan, though?
I mean, good question.
He doesn't like Mandalorians.
It's just a general sort of bigotry.
What?
It's just like, I don't like Mandalorians.
Yeah, like how we hate Trandoshans.
Well, I mean, I think
the generalized bigotry.
The Mandalorians have always been a threat to the Empire's power. And that's why they wiped him out in the first place. So I think if Thrawn is planning something, he wants to do his own version of the First Order 30 years earlier. You know, he wants to keep the Mandalorians down and divided and not have them foil his plans. So whatever he's doing, you know, he maybe needs Bo-Katan dead. Maybe he thinks that she is the one that may take up the sword and lead the Mandalorians back, being that she's kind of the most prolific leader, recent person in Mandalorian history.
Now, that's a fair theory. Could it also have been a certain Moff who just has a personal vendetta against Bo-Katan, who maybe wants his sword back?
I think it's
and perhaps recently escaped from the New Republic.
They do throw that out there too. It's not a bad theory, because they throw a lot of doubt on what's going on with Moff Gideon. Oh, he was hooked up to a mind flare. Oh, he was doing this. He escaped.
I think this is the same theory, because I think Moff and Thrawn are connected. I think maybe Thrawn is stuck somewhere. Like, this is kind of a very big theory. Thrawn is stuck somewhere, Nether regions. I don't know, somewhere he can't get out yet. But he can communicate to Moff, and Moff is kind of doing. Gideon. Moff is like, it's not even a name.
I'm pretty sure when Giancarlo Esposito was first promoting the show, he referred to Gideon as Moff as if that was his first name.
So where I get it from.
And again, this is Jon Favreau writing it, and this is the guy who's brought us Mithril and the Client and. Weak way, you know.
Like what? Yeah, I've just bloody learned that's not a name. That's this bloody species. What the hell was I talking about? Oh, Thrawn somewhere, and he can't do it for some reason. But Gideon is doing kind of his bidding at the moment for some reason. But they're kind of in cahoots, for lack of a better term, with each other. They're in cahoots.
Cahoots. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I do think Gideon's the first wave of whatever it is that Thrawn is up to, and Gideon's kind of out there gathering the resources and gathering intel and starting to put the pieces in place. And as we'll talk about, I think Elia Kane is part of that as well. All of them sort of just first they wanted Grogu for the blood because they were working on something there. I have to think that's connected to whatever the larger threat is, and that seems to be Thrawn. So they weren't ready to go just yet, so they needed somebody to just get out there and start collecting that data. And Moff Gideon, he was the guy, and he got things rolling. But yeah, the chase scene through the canyons, loved it. Phenomenal, amazing, great bit of Star Wars action. A serious improvement on the lazy asteroid chase from the first episode. All right, let's talk a bit about let's talk about the Coruscant stuff here. And we'll start with Dr. Pershing and his speech, his TED talk at the Opera House, which as you guys pointed out, great location to go back to. Great to see it. Very nostalgic, bringing us back to the location where we all first heard the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. But it's the moments after his speech that I think are the most revealing. Yeah. Ben, what did you think of when he was being sort of mobbed by all those good citizens of the New Republic? Yes, quite. What did you think of that moment?
Probably one of my favorite scenes in the entire episode. Just this whole, just these rich a-holes that don't care about anything. I love the guys like, oh, rebels, Imperials, New Republic, I can't keep them all straight. I was almost drafted.
Yeah.
And his wife is just like, that was the Empire, dear. like you shouldn't be saying things like that. And it's just, I love that whole thing of just like, Coruscanti or being Coruscanti. They're just so out of touch. And I think, I don't know, I think it kind of adds more context to the idea of why the Republic capital was moved to the, I don't want to say Outer Rim, but it was moved to, I think at this point it's in Chandrila, and eventually ends up in Hosnian Prime. I think just to get away from people like this. Like seriously, you have these people that are just bad news, and they're going to be talking up politicians. Yeah, take it away from that, because Coruscant is just this hotbed of just the worst people. But also, I think it's good to see that just the same as the Republic had a lot of problems, and that resulted in the creation of the Empire. Those problems have not just been washed away because the Empire is quote unquote gone and the New Republic exists. A lot of the same people are there, and people, just the whole idea of the amnesty program and all this kind of stuff. The fact is that there's so many people that contributed or indirectly or directly to the Empire, and what are you gonna do? Lock them all up? You can't. Like, there's probably not enough cells in the galaxy to hold all these people, and not to mention you can't pinpoint how much they contributed or whatever else. So it makes sense, logically speaking, to do this with just former Imperials, but also the people that funded all this, people that did all this, they're still there. And just this whole bag. I like Pershing because he is totally uncomfortable with all of this and knows. I think genuinely he's trying to be a good guy. He's not really a good guy because he's done bad things, but he's trying, and he's very uncomfortable with all these people that are just fascinated by him, and it's great. I love that.
Yeah. There's the voiceover from the tour guide thing that he's watching at one point where it says, although it's referred to as the center of the galaxy, it isn't actually. It's sort of like whether it's the capital or not at this point in the timeline doesn't really matter. It's still a huge seat of power and influence. And all of those people that showed up for his TED talk, they're the people that are going to be there regardless of who's in power. And, maybe the New Republic makes them feel a little bit better about themselves, or at least it is in this moment in time. but there's going to come a time when they're going to go, I kind of miss how rich the Empire made me. And, that's still one of my favorite moments in all of Kenobi is when Bail Organa's shitty in-laws show up, and the one guy's like, oh, it's nice that the Empire's finally lining some pockets, and Bail's like, but slavery, and they're like, but the money, and let's not talk about politics and all that stuff. So I think these people, they're enjoying this moment where they feel like morally superior of, yes, we've moved on from the Empire and fascism, but give it a couple years and they'll be like, actually, I want some of that fascist gold again, please. Could we get back to that? It shows that, as you were saying, Ben, like the systems and the structures that were in place that allowed the Empire to rise, those still exist, right? And I think that's a very sort of important a lesson for this moment in time. Trump may no longer be president, but a lot of those systems and structures that allowed him to gain that level of power still exist. And for as well-intentioned as people may be, unless you're willing to tear down those structures and tear down those systems, there's every chance he's going to come back, or we'll get, someone like Ron DeSantis, who's very much the first order to Trump's empire. So
people love to simplify things. It is in the real world, and the Star Wars universe is a reflection of that. Just like putting it on one person. We get rid of that guy, everything's going to be fine. We defeat that guy, everything's going to be fine. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that.
Palpatine's gone. Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're no longer in the Empire. Everything is awesome when it's the New Republic. But you're right, Ben. You think we got rid of Palpatine? We won the war. It's all over. We can move on.
I love the contrasting of, you have
long
live the New Republic. What were they saying a few episodes ago? Long live the Empire. Maybe you shouldn't put something, maybe your whole thinking around how all this works is the problem.
Yeah, exactly. And there's also,
I'm not brave enough for politics.
Well, so one thing I will say, but
the Canadian said it.
Yeah. One thing I will say about sort of the New Republic and that I found kind of shocking about the New Republic is that, I think, we can look at the amnesty program and go, yeah, okay, nice idea. Good. We'll get these, like you said, Ben, we can't lock everybody up, can't kill everybody. Let's get people sort of readjusted back into life. Okay. I can sort of see the thinking there. The numbering of people. The fact that they're calling each other L52 and L39 and, they're giving each other numbers. That's some first order BS. That's FN 2187, not Finn. Like, come on. And you would think, again, the New Republic supposed to be the good guys. Yay, everything is awesome. And the New Republic supposed to give people their humanity back. And yet here they are either stripping it or not providing it to these ex-Imperials. And if you want these ex-Imperials to integrate back into society, to see the error of their ways and become productive, good, upstanding citizens of the New Republic, you have to let them see themselves as people. They can't be L59, right? And the moment, that I think it's very telling, the moment where I think Dr. Pershing really begins to trust Elia Kane is when they actually exchange names, when they finally, that's when you sort of see like, oh yeah, there is a humanity here. There should be a humanity here. Now, she's manipulating him a bit in that moment, and we'll come on to that. She's manipulating him a lot in that moment. We'll come on to that later. But I was really surprised that, and again, it goes to show our concepts of good and evil. Just because you're not the Empire doesn't mean you're automatically good. It doesn't mean everything that you do is automatically awesome. And the New Republic here is doing a thing that I don't think is all that great, and it's not good it may work in the short term, but I don't think it's good in the long term. And some of these Imperials that have gone through the amnesty program, the more they get referred to as, J7 as opposed to John or Jane or whoever, the more they might feel like, you know what? Bring back the Empire. I liked my tight uniform. I liked traveling through hyperspace. I liked my yellow biscuits. Damn it. Give me those biscuits back. And so when someone shows up and say, how about you join the First Order, which is basically the Empire, but with shinier costumes, they'll be like, yes, please sign me up for that. Are there biscuits? There are biscuits. All right. Please give me some stormtrooper armor. I will be very happy. Yeah. So it's again, we're seeing the folly of the New Republic and why it will one day fall, or at least one day be challenged by the First Order in the way that it is. Let's talk about the dynamic between Dr. Pershing and Elia Kane. Hannah, I'll throw it to you. What did you think of these two and their kind of back and forth and the way they were sort of becoming buddies and then very weren't in the end?
Yeah, it was super bizarre because, well, first of all, I actually really liked the dynamic. I thought it was a very, you can see them really warming to each other and some sort of partnership, friendship starting to form. But even when it kind of seemed nice, there was still something. What is Pershing thinking? What was the character? Elia?
Elia. Yeah.
Elia Kane.
Elia Kane.
Okay. Elia. Okay. What are they thinking? It was just really interesting to try and piece there's something else going on here. And even when Pershing was like so gung-ho about getting the equipment and he's like, yeah, I got to get it. Like, I just need some things. And she was like, yeah, I'll help you. Like, I'll take you. Like, it was very, like, kind of nice, but then you could feel that undertone of suspicion with all their interactions. And even the music was very telling of that. And I'm sure we've all heard the sweet little theme in the middle of the show, of the episode. The character theme. Don't what? Tell me you both missed it.
I am musically challenged.
Ben, did you hear this theme? It's a theme of someone specific.
Here's how musically challenged I am. I know that the music from the end of Phantom Menace is the Emperor's theme, but like party version, but I can't hear it. I know that because people have told me.
It, but you can't hear it.
I listen to it and I just hear I just hear a party. I hear a good time. I don't hear the Emperor's theme.
Okay, so I think I've heard about the one you're talking about. I specifically looked for it, didn't hear it. So lay it on us.
I've got the timestamp for you. It's exactly on the 30-minute mark. 30:00 it happens. So I don't know what that says. But of course, we get the drone, very specific drone, and a little bit of the notes after the drone of the Darth Plagueis theme that is playing when Palpatine is talking about Plagueis to Anakin in the opera scene. It's pretty much exactly the same. I just this morning I just like went back and forth between the two, and I was like, yeah, that's Plagueis' theme. That
there's actually a different one that I heard about.
Oh, what did you hear?
I'm not telling you now. You'll have to wait.
What? Gotta wait for the damn corner, don't I? Oh, dude. Okay, all right. Well, that's fair. That's fair enough. What was this rant about? Oh yeah. Anyway, so that played at a very odd point. It was when Pershing decided, yep, he's gonna, he's kind of scared about getting the equipment, but then he decides I'm gonna go get it. And he goes up to Elia's door and was like, we're gonna go get it. And it's like in the background, it's like, like that, the Plagueis drone. It was so interesting placement, but the relationship was very interesting.
Yeah. Ben, what'd you think of those two and the way they sort of played off each other and may or may not have accidentally discovered Plagueis?
Yeah, I mean, I liked them two working off of each other. I think it's a great thing to kind of, because I'm guessing Favreau didn't plan this. You know, had the Doctor was there for season 1, part of it, and then really was kind of absent until the end of season 2. And then Elia Kane came in, you know, late in season 2. And the characters really didn't interact, and they actually play off that. They're like, yeah, we never really spoke to one another. We never really were friends on the things. And so I liked that they played into this and played into their relationship. And, you know, but like I think what Hannah was referring to is just like, I was kind of having a bit of trouble. Just like, okay, what is actually going on here? What's the point? And getting to the end where she takes this, like they get caught and she takes the stuff out of his hands. She just kind of stares at him ominously. And I'm like, wait, what is happening? Like, I still didn't get it. And like watching the episode back, like, yeah, it's clear that she's up to no good. She's clearly kind of being a triple agent and playing him on it and being the one that's encouraging him through this whole process of, well, what can we do? And really doing some great acting, because you go back and watch the episode a second time, you're like, when she says, oh, we did some bad things, I need to make up for it, she doesn't mean any of that. She is totally just pulling him along, and is someone who is undoubtedly in Moff Gideon's pocket, or maybe even Thrawn's, who knows?
Yeah, well, again, maybe that may be the same thing. Yeah, I thought I like this. Like, the whole while you're watching this episode and you're thinking it can't just be two people going to the fair, having popsicles and nearly touching a mountain. Like, there's more to it than that. Not a euphemism. And in the end, it obviously is. There's way more to it. There's something. Dr. Pershing had something in his mind that whoever it is that Elia is working for did not want out there. And so all of this was an elaborate ruse to get him into the mind flare so that she could crank it up to 11 and wipe his memory. And now the question is, what is it that he was working on? Well, we know he was working on something to do with Grogu. Something to do with that. And there was, they were testing Grogu's blood for the M count and all of that stuff. So, who stands to gain from that? Well, Palpatine's out there on Exegol somewhere. Maybe Moff Gideon is working for him. Maybe Thrawn's working with him. Who knows? But somebody doesn't want whatever it is that Pershing had in his mind to get out there. Now, I suspect that, we're going to find that Dr. Pershing left behind some secret notes somewhere that are going to fall into the hands of Din Djarin or Carson Teva or someone else.
He wrote a manifesto.
He wrote, and it will be played at a very dramatic moment later on in the season, and Omid Abtahi will return to do some voiceover for it. Yeah. But what was I saying? Whatever it is that he's working on, I think there's some proof of that out there that will fall into the hands of our heroes that will, further them exploring this mystery. But, the question was raised in the chat of, I'll throw this up there, Chosen Nightwolf. He says, I'm confused. How does Pershing's story tie in with the Mandalorians? I'm watching the episode right now as we speak. It's an interesting question. And I go back to what we were joking about a little bit off the top, which is this episode is kind of similar to some of those Book of Boba episodes that were more Mandalorian episodes. I think Favreau and Filoni and everybody working on these shows is trying to get us used to the idea that there's going to be stuff in these episodes that doesn't relate specifically to the main plot of the season, that relates to the larger story, the bigger story. And whether that's, reuniting Din Djarin with Grogu, whether that's whatever's going on with the Empire or the Imperial Remnant, I don't know. But I do think these stories will intersect at some point down the line. But whatever's going on here has more to do with something else than, can Din Djarin and Bo-Katan remain members of the Children of the Watch? Is that, we can debate the the merits of taking massive chunks out of episodes of different series and dedicating them to other characters that aren't the main character, and furthering a plot that isn't necessarily directly tied in to the main thrust of the season. But I think Favreau and Filoni and these shows are signaling to us that that's going to be part of the DNA of these shows, for better or for worse.
Wow, one thing that has kind of poked my mind, prodded my mind of thought, is the naming of these shows. We have this whole conversation about storylines, side, offshoots, and Joel brings up in the chat, old TV shows we did have B plots and C plots. Not everything needs to be A plot.
Yeah,
I think that's hard to grasp in this case because the show is based on a character. It's not Mandalorians. It is just the Mandalorian, and that is what Din Djarin's name is. So when we get something that isn't that, it's a little. That's when we go, oh, I thought this was the show. Well, it's the Book of Boba Fett. It wasn't.
Yeah.
The Gangsters of Tatooine show. You know what I mean? And so that's why people, I think it's much easier to identify. Hey, the character's in the title. The character's not in this episode. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well,
yeah.
And also, Dr. Pershing has kind of been on the sidelines for a long time. Like, I think if this episode or an episode did a whole section dedicated to just Bo-Katan or just the Armorer or a character that has really been part of the main story of Din Djarin through the whole way through, I don't think anybody would bat an eyelash at it. But because Pershing has been kind of off to the side for so much, and he's only really had 1 or 2 scenes with Din, he's kind of seen as being separate. But I think Favreau and Filoni, they're signaling to us that we're going to have these little side quests, and we may not see the importance in them in the moment, but they're going to pay off down the line.
And even so, Omid Abtahi, who plays Dr. Pershing, also played Cadet Amos in the Clone Wars, who was a Mandalorian. So technically, Dr. Pershing is a Mandalorian, and he was the Mandalorian in this episode. So checkmate, haters.
That's such a good point.
But no, I think I alluded to this, I think, a couple episodes ago. But I think overall, I think we're seeing I've noticed like a change in the way Favreau is telling the story. I think we're seeing a shift from Book of Boba Fett, which I think was a show that was obviously a spin-off. It was meant to broaden the scope of the quote-unquote Mandoverse that we're talking about here, and ultimately kind of push beyond the boundaries of just Din and Grogu. But because those 2 seasons were kind of done in a bubble. Favreau Favreau wrote both those first seasons.
That's Pingu's brother, right? Dingu.
Oh boy.
Dingu. not Dingu.
But Favreau wrote both of those first seasons like in a vacuum. He wrote first season, and then by the time the second season was coming out, he had already written it. They were doing. By the time the first season came out, they were working on the second season. So, now we're getting to the point where they know Ahsoka's coming. All these shows are coming. So I think just the fact that the first episode of this season was slower, it was kind of slowed down. It was checking in with the characters, and also a lot of exposition, I think, was signaling that we're not telling the story of the Mandalorian. We're not telling a story just for the season. We're setting up stuff that's going to pay off in other series, multiple seasons, years down the road. I think this episode illustrates that perfectly. And just like, we're trying to get the audience familiar with the New Republic, because I'm watching it with my dad the other night. He's like, "What's the New Republic?" I'm like, it's the government. I don't know.
Yeah. And like on the New Republic stuff. Did someone say it before? But it's like I've been wanting New Republic stuff since sequels and just since Force Awakens. Like I've always said, like if we knew what the hell Hosnian Prime was, like that scene would be so much more impactful. And you know what? I don't mind if we learn about New Republic and maybe more about Hosnian Prime now and further on. But this Pershing storyline, I think, would fit well if next year we're getting a Rangers of the New Republic show. And that's broad. Rangers of the New Republic. We could have, we could have many characters in that, and we could have a Pershing storyline where he's assigned to the New Republic. I don't know.
I wonder if some of this made it into the show because Rangers has been backburned.
That's a good point.
Because of everything. Yeah. I mean, the part of the episode that was sort of the most befuddling to me was all the stuff about what happened to Moff Gideon. Did he escape? Did he get mind flayed? Like, he's still alive, but that sort of, I sort of half love the way they kind of just drop that in as if it's just casual conversation and everybody should know it. But at the same time, I was also like, hey, wait a minute, what? But we captured him. We did a whole thing to capture him last season. And your whole reason for writing that character out of the show, your in-universe reason for writing Cara Dune out of the show was that she was promoted for successfully delivering him to the New Republic. Why isn't he? How did he escape? And I wonder if that would have been something that could have happened on a Rangers show. But it didn't, and so they've just kind of said it happened between seasons, and we'll perhaps deal with the repercussions later on in the series. But
I did low-key forget that Rangers was cancelled. You're right, Nightwarp, and you were like, "Oh, that's why it's cancelled." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, shit, yeah, it was cancelled, right?" But it could happen still. Let's reboot it with Dr. Pershing as the main character.
Yeah, let's get Dr. Pershing, Carson Teva, and Cobb Vanth.
Yep.
There's
there's the show. Boom,
Rangers
back on. It's
Rangers
on, baby. Let's tweet that out. Report. Clickbait that.
Yes, get some clicks to the site.
There we go.
I will say about this episode, this is the first episode this season where I did feel like time had passed between the seasons. Like the Din Djarin storyline feels like it just could pick up right after Book of Boba Fett, like nothing's gone on. And even the Book of Boba Fett felt like it was pretty soon after season 2 of The Mandalorian. This stuff with Moff Gideon escaping and Pershing and Elia going through the amnesty program and all that stuff, like that stuff felt like that must have taken some time. And that's where, when Favreau said, 2 years between seasons, I'm like, okay, that's where it sort of makes sense, because it didn't really make sense with the Mando stuff. That stuff felt like it was just continuing on. But then again, this is Star Wars. Like, how long does it take to get from Bespin to Hoth, right, on sublight engine? How long was Luke on Dagobah? We've never had really clear answers about this sort of thing, and in the end, it doesn't really matter. The answer is how long does it take? Well, how long does the story need it to take? And so that's sort of it.
I just have to highlight in the chat the best misspelling of something. Din says, I could sue an animated Tales of the New Republic show. And I was like, sue? It doesn't even exist. How can you sue it? You've corrected yourself. I could use an animated Tales of the New Republic show.
Yes, Lucasfilm, I am taking legal action against this show that I just invented.
You don't exist. What?
This is like that thing where somebody's suing a movie studio because they said something was in the trailer because they said the trailer was too misleading. So we're gonna sue Lucasfilm for not making a show that I want.
Thinking of it.
Oh, I'm sure there are absolutely some bozos out there with their petitions going, we're gonna sue Lucasfilm for rewriting the expanded universe. No hate to the expanded universe or expanded universe fans. I am one, but we got our bozos. All right, what else? We've we've covered just about everything.
Yeah. What's happened? Yeah. Sorry, you go.
No, go ahead. You got if you got something, let's
I don't have anything, so that's why I'm like, great. Oh, you go now.
Brilliant. Because we've covered the sort of the New Republic, the politics of the New Republic. We've covered the dynamic between Pershing and Elia, and we've kind of speculated a little bit about what exactly is going on there. Who is she working for? What is she doing? Why did she turn the mind flayer up to 11 at the end? But so that a lot goes down that's in the Coruscant arc, but it's a lot of, it takes its time getting there, which I kind of loved. I kind of loved that. But Hannah, again, you look like you might have something to say. You were waving your finger around a second ago.
Yes, I've got something. I like how I physically can't keep it in when I think of an idea. I'm piecing together a theory, and I want to run with it.
Let's hear it.
What if Luthen survives Andor and original trilogy, and he shows up at this point in the story on Coruscant, and for some reason, like he's maybe gone like he's kind of a chill guy working for the Republic, for the rebels in Andor, but he's kind of gone a bit kooky, a little bit of a Saw Gerrera situation where he's kind of gone a bit kooky, a bit too extremist, and then like in Mandalorian, like he's trying to like pull the strings of situations, and he's like on Coruscant, like orchestrating a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know where this theory is going, but just what if Luthen shows up in Mando?
You got me with Luthen and Mandalorian.
I just think that would be a cool idea.
And he'll
I just want Luthen talking to Dr. Mandible. That's what I want. That's what I need in my life.
And he'll just, of course, what he'll say is, "Don't you want to risk it all for something real?"
Just the wackiest thing from Mandalorian meeting up with the most intense, serious thing from Andor. That's what I need in my Star Wars.
Yeah,
brilliant.
That'll work. That'll work.
Love it. Well, I think we all know what time it is. It's that time again. It's your favorite time of the show. It's my favorite time of the show. It's Ben's favorite time of the show. Get your Oreos ready because it's time.
Oreos ready. I'm getting my snack time. Snack time.
Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's
How's it going?
The live studio office. All right, Ben. We've got our Oreos ready. We're ready to listen. What are the connections?
I actually edited myself. I sat down and took proper notes. I watched the episode, and I'm like, I'm gonna scale back. I'm not gonna put so many things. I have so many notes. Ridiculous. So strap in. Here we go. So first off, we got TIE interceptors, and unless I'm mistaken, both the first time in live action TIE interceptors appeared, and the last time TIE interceptors appeared before this episode was Return of the Jedi.
Oh, okay.
I think they had a small cameo as a holographic thing in Last Jedi, I think. And maybe there was a TIE interceptor in that cluster bleep of a battle at the end of Rise of Skywalker. I don't know.
Can I say, Ben, I kind of cringed when Din was like, "Oh, TIE interceptors are so much tougher to take down than TIE fighters." I was like, you don't need your video game facts in this stuff here, guys. Just show it. Just show don't tell. Show don't tell.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not wrong though.
No, he's not wrong. But it was like, did we really need that line?
Also, in Battlefront 2 from 2005, they're not that much tougher. They're just a little bit faster. They're actually not the best fighter. I prefer a regular old TIE fighter because it's got tougher. No shields though. Anyway, okay, just stop distracting me. It's of course we got the Opera House from Revenge of the Sith, straight up. Again,
not the Sydney Opera House.
That's exactly. But when we get shots of the carpeting and stuff like that, it's really, really great.
Yeah. Just only missing the Baron Papanoida cameo.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. Where are the Papanoidas?
You know what? That scene. That scene where Pershing's standing there and all the this politicians, wealthy people, whatever, standing around him. That one scene felt more Star Wars to me than the whole of Andor. And I'm only saying that because Chris isn't here, so he can't bully me live.
Dr. Pershing doing his best. Best.
They were
Apple
equally Star
impression.
Wars in my
doing his
mind.
keynote.
Okay,
speech.
neutral. All right, Alderaan. Yeesh.
Yeah,
I actually didn't write this down. I love the name drop of the Kaminoans. That's just
Yeah.
chef's
That's a good
kiss.
point. That's a
Just
good
really great, and just the fact that we have on the other show all this talk about Kaminoans, just a little crossover, little connection, if you will. Pershing, I didn't even notice this the first time, but he keeps holding his ear. He kind of has these pause moments. This is the fact. I went and rewatched the episode recently. He's got his ear almost shot off by Cara Dune way back when. And he's still got the wound. A piece of his ear is still missing, which is yeah, pretty intense. And also, this is the musical theme I was referring to. Apparently, cannot track this down. I listened, I didn't hear it, and maybe people are mistaking this for what you heard, Hannah, but people were saying that Snoke's theme is in this episode. I don't know where. I assumed it was during the Opera House theme scene, but there is some music. I went back and listened to Snoke's theme from both The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi to try to get a sense of it. Still couldn't find it.
I couldn't even tell you what Snoke's theme sounds like.
It's just throat singing.
Doesn't it just sound like Plagueis' theme?
Well, okay, yeah, hang on. Well, that kind of is what Plagueis' theme is like, so maybe it could be either.
I mean,
it's 30-minute mark.
It could just be
Go
William
after
just
this.
being like
30-minute
Plagueis
mark.
and Snoke.
Yeah,
same thing, right?
I mean, the similarities between the two fueled, I'm going to say, minimum 2 to 4 years of clickbait articles on various websites. Star Wars soundtrack confirms the connection between Darth Plagueis and Snoke.
Yeah.
Here's 10 advertisements in the text of the article.
Classic.
yeah. Oh wow, that's super accurate.
Dr. Pershing, when he's coming out of the Opera House, he mentions that he talks about a strand cast, and where I remember that being talked about before was from, I think it was chapter 7 of season 1. Din actually suggests that Grogu could be a strand catch, which I guess is some kind of clone. But Queel says he's, quote, too ugly to be engineered. So that was the direct quote. So
Queel's a jerk. Oh, God. He's too ugly.
Well, I mean, he's ugly for his species. Okay, humans think he's cute. Ugnaughts think Grogu is ugly, apparently. So, there you go. So the droid, I love the whole conversation in the cab on the way back to the housing unit, and the droid in the front seat, and he's like, turns his head around. He's like, and Pershing's like, point, please, like, eyes on the road, dude. The droid mentions that he should see the holographic museum of extinct animals, and something about the Manitobog of Malastare is something that you should check out. Now I really want to go to Coruscant and see that museum. And it's been talked about a lot, but I'll go ahead and mention it. Obviously, this whole kind of scenario is not something that is new to Star Wars. This whole idea of bringing Imperials kind of out of, giving them a chance to kind of be a part of the New Republic as opposed to just rotting in a prison is something that was introduced, I think, in the Alphabet Squadron books. The main character, Ira Quell, goes through something similar. And it's all kind of based on the kind of real world thing that is Operation Paperclip after World War II, taking, Nazi scientists and using them for the space program and all that jazz. So brace yourselves. I'm got to get really literal here.
Okay.
They're little jar cup things that they're drinking out of outside the things. They sit on top of each other and connect. I just think that's cool. I just think that's cool. They connect. Yeah.
It's satisfying. Yeah.
Well done, Ben.
Yeah. You're welcome. So we got the dude in the office tells him Happy Bendu Day What the heck is Bendu Day? And is it a celebration of the balance of the Force or something, or the great sacrifice of that moose dude from way back when?
He says Binder Day. It's not Bindu Day. It's Binder.
Oh, no, it's Bendu. It's Bendu.
It's Binder.
Bendu.
I'll bet
Who's
you.
Binder? Who's Binder?
I don't know. Some guy. He did a thing. There's a whole book about him. I'll bet you a bag of Oreos.
Oh no, Binder. Maybe it's just Australian. I don't know. Maybe it's an Aussie saying.
If that was the case, it'd be Bindo Day.
Bindo. Oh yeah, true.
Right. In the same scene, we get some data cards, which are basically just like different versions of the same little card that they have the Death Star plans on in Rogue One. Kind of cool.
Yeah, of course. I've been wondering that the whole time. I was like, I'll just wait for the corner. I'll find it out.
I did the research, so you don't have to. I made the connection, so you don't have to. So a big one here. This is one that everyone noticed. Monument Plaza. We go. This one I cheered for. I'm like, oh my god, crazy. Last appeared in the episode Duchess of Mandalore back in, I believe, season 2 of Clone Wars, way back when. This is the whole mountain. They recreated it perfectly. And obviously based on that old piece of Ralph McQuarrie art that just Google Monument Plaza Ralph McQuarrie, you'll see it. Really cool. And just the fact that we got it, and it's so dense. There's so much going on in the backgrounds, and there's this Dilophosaurus looking dragon bird thing that this guy reveals from under a cape. Just crazy stuff. So there's also a mention of the guy says, we're still decommissioning the Alliance fleet. What's going on?
I was trying to catch you before you moved on. Do you have anything else to say about the mountain?
No.
No? The mountain, Ben. The mountain shows up elsewhere in Star Wars. I'm pretty sure. In the High Republic, the first book, the Light of the Jedi. What is that called?
Yeah.
I think I remember this.
They have. I've read this book ages ago, but there's some sort of meeting, or that's where they gather or something. But of this mountain on Coruscant, and that's the top of it. That's the mountain.
Is the mountain not as covered in the High Republic?
Something like that. I think there's more to it or something, or maybe. I don't.
I think something happens. Around it.
There's a ceremony there. Someone gets chancellored or something there. Chancellored. That's when you become a chancellor, by the way.
That's when you're chancellor.
I got chancellored last week. Okay. Anyway, that is mountain. Continue.
No, that's cool. It's cool that it's popping up in different things. Just a cool concept. Just the fact that it's this giant city, and it's just oh yeah, there is a planet down there somewhere, and
it's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Kind of where we're headed one of these days. Just be oh yeah, here's Mount Everest. Here's the last thing you can see on planet Earth. So we get a mention of the decommissioning of the Alliance fleet. This is obviously a kind of a deep cut into all the books and comics, stuff like that, that's happened after Return of the Jedi, where we basically, Mon Mothma ordered the demilitarization of not just the Empire, but the Republic itself. So by the time the First Order happens, there's no fleet, or at least not enough to count.
No, but okay. So this is something I've never understood about the canon, quote unquote, is Mon Mothma has the fleet decommissioned. Okay, got it. But by the time of the First Order, the New Republic does have a fleet, because Hux references it in his speech.
I think it's very small.
The Republic and that cherished fleet, he mentions it, and then when they blow up the Hosnian system, you can see all the ships being blown up around the planets too. So I felt like the New Republic had a sizable fleet that was capable of taking on the First Order, but it had to be wiped out so that the First Order could take control of the galaxy.
Right. I don't know, maybe they were, I think the whole idea is just let's not have a galaxy spanning fleet that can subjugate everyone. But also the First Order had this infinite army. Wasn't too many fleets that could stand up to them, and they blew it up in a second. So, speaking of the sequel trilogy and that era of Star Wars, we got in the station for a brief second. I don't know how I caught this. Looked in the background. When they're walking through the train station, you can see a Frigosian in the background. Does anybody know what a Frigosian is? Test time.
It's an alien.
Yeah, is it
It's
an
a Star
alien?
Wars alien.
Oh, okay, I'll give you that one on a technicality.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Where was the scene again? I like.
It's the train station when they're walking into the train station.
Tongs days, am I right?
Yeah. Is it the hairy guy? Are you talking about the hairy, massive guy on the train?
No, I'm getting to
okay,
that. I'll get to that.
Oh, okay. All right.
So this one is he's the same species as Opipit from Star Wars Resistance. He's the
floor washer?
He's the floor washer guy. He's
Oh
the
my
janitor,
God.
the legendary janitor that got his floor sweeper taken away by the First Order. Legendary.
What?
And I didn't know they were in
Damn,
live
that was a
action,
good
but there's
show.
one
That was a
back
great
there
show.
that you can see. Big poofy dude with giant googly eyes. So there you go. Also, yes, there's a giant alien that you see in, I think it's in Canto Bight when they're like walking through and he's like pounding on the table, like really angry. I guess he lost his hand or whatever else. But he's the one
not
they keep
literally,
cutting
because
to.
that can be confusing in Star Wars.
Yeah, I
Because
thought
that
for a
literally
second,
happens.
I thought for a second I'd missed a hand slice scene in Star Wars. I'm like, oh, you lost his hand. Oh no.
I mean, who
his
knows?
hand
He
at
might have
poker.
got
God.
ran over in the casino by those fathers. Who knows? So I couldn't help but think about the Bad Batch when I'm seeing them break into a Star Destroyer in a dry dock. We just got that
right.
a few
I was like,
episodes ago.
do we
There's
just
a
see
lot of
this?
Bad Batch parallels in this show. Kind of weird.
Mm.
Also, a centipede in the Star Destroyer.
Loved it.
Kind of similar to the Cahoons that we just saw in the latest episode of Bad Batch that tried to kill Fee. Kind of interesting. So I don't know what was going on there, but and one of my favorites of the entire episode is the police speeder, which we see in a lot in Clone Wars, some in Rebels, and seeing it in live action just crazy. I'm gonna get a good great shot of it, but just like that design is really cool, and yeah, really cool. Only a couple more. Well, a few more. Okay, here we go. The scientist uniforms that they're wearing when Pershing is doing it is getting done to is they're very similar to what the scientists wore on Edu in Rogue One, and just the absolute brilliance of it was a trap.
Yes.
And the Mon Cal just looks at him just like, what?
I thought they were gonna break the fourth wall in that moment and have everybody turn and look at the camera and wink.
Yeah. That's so good.
I couldn't help but think about, I don't know, maybe canonically what Crosshair went through was a mind flare, but I couldn't help but think about
it looks
what
it
looks like what
Yeah.
Crosshair, what they did to intensify his chip in season 1 of Bad Batch. Looks a lot like that. And also, this is not the first time we've heard about mind flares in the Mandalorian. Cara Dune says in, I think it was chapter 8, she says that they're going to upload her to a mind flare. So she's not interested in being apprehended by Moff Gideon at that point. But Grief Karga, interestingly, says it's just wartime propaganda and it's not real. And then here we need to see the New Republic utilizing this technology. Just great.
Yeah, again, that's that sort of thing I was talking about, where like, okay, yeah, the New Republic, they use this technology to tickle your brain and make you see pretty colors and that sort of thing, and it's all peaceful and nice, but it can still be cranked up to 11. So the temptation is there for even, as we know, good people can have bad moments. They can, think about killing their nephew in the middle of the night and crank the thing up to 11. And all of a sudden the New Republic again loses the moral high ground just by having this technology and having that possibility of holding it over people, saying, we'll wipe your mind literally if you don't do what we say.
Yep. Okay, two more things. And so this is interesting, being that I think this is genuinely one of the most just brilliantly and stunningly beautiful episodes we've gotten so far. It also appears to be the episode with the most mistakes in it. Let me explain in a little segment within a segment I call Ben's Blooper Alcove.
It's Ben's Blooper
Alcove. Bloopers in the alcove with Ben. Ben's Blooper Alcove.
It's not. No. Stop. What you're doing?
How's it going?
Ben's Blooper Alcove is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
What have I done?
Spin, Ben, spin for us.
I will not,
man.
especially not that way. No, it's not happening. When Bo-Katan does her like handbrake turn and we get like the gauntlet is like falling and there's like 0G in the cockpit, R5 is like floating in midair and he's like turning forward towards the camera. And then he falls flat on his face.
Yeah.
And then in the next shot, he's on his back.
Oh, wow. Yeah, nice pickup. Jeez, how much time do you have going through this?
Too much time. It's consuming my life.
Oh,
and I'm not done, okay? I'm not done because I
word.
jumped off my couch the other night when I realized this one. So when Din and Bo are coming in for a landing at the covert, as we know, the droid port has been placed back on the N1. The little dome, Grogu's little dome, is gone. But when we're coming in, there's a shot of Din looking backwards at the N1, and you can clearly see the dome is there.
Wow.
And at least one, if not multiple shots.
What? So much just happened in my brain. I was like, no.
Ben, I think you broke Hannah.
Oh,
I'm
no, because
sorry.
we've got the scene with the Purgle, and he's in the dome.
Yeah, but they took the dome off to put R5 there. The dome is gone for the entirety of the sequence in this episode.
We
It's
saw
gone.
Pelimoto. We visited Pelimoto. Yeah.
Go watch the episode again and have your mind blown.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
There it is. Is that it? Is that it, Ben?
Yes.
All right. Well, before we wrap this, I just would like to issue a formal apology. I was wrong. It is Bendu Day, as Matthew Hardy points out in the chat. There are.
Okay.
I was just being a contrarian. I didn't know it was actually that.
I could have sworn he was saying.
I didn't look at the
Binder
captions.
Day. I could have sworn he was saying Binder Day. But Matthew Hardy in the chat says there's 5 days of the week in the Star Wars week. There's Prime Day, Syntax Day, Tongs Day, Zell Day, and Bendu Day. Now, if you go to the Wikipedia article for Galactic Standard Calendar, they give the days of the week again: Prime Day, Syntax Day, Tongs Day, Zell Day, and Bendu Day. And then they add this little detail: some locales had other names for days of the week, including Thursday and Saturday. Why? This is another one of those things where it's like, why do we need a new word for them? Can we not just say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or just Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and leave it at Saturday, Sunday as well? Like, can we just?
Which is just code for this random author decided to mention Saturday in their book, so it has to be canon on this planet.
Exactly. But
that's
I see. I the only one of those I ever knew was Prime Day. Because do you guys remember? This is way
Amazon
back
Prime
now.
Day?
No, this is way back. I think this predates Amazon Prime Day. When that song "Friday" by Rebecca Black was the meme, and I remember somebody did a Star Wars parody of it called Prime Day, and that was when I first learned that someone had decided that Star Wars needed different days of the week. And we couldn't just have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But yeah, I'm sure that video still exists if you need to find it. But no disrespect to whoever wrote that parody. I'm sure it's a fine song, but it's not as good a song as the theme song for this segment. You know the segment. It's been another successful edition of Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience.
Were you done, Ben?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
all right.
I
Yeah,
was
okay.
actually done.
Sure, yeah, I was like, we confirmed.
I was just thinking these things are
Just gave
getting
him the hook.
longer and longer.
Yeah, I was going to say we need to put a clock on it.
I think one of these days we're just gonna be like, oh, we're just gonna start the show and initial thoughts, and then get right into Ben's Connection Corner, because that's the whole show, ladies and gentlemen.
I was gonna say let's do it like the Oscars or somewhere where it's like you'll be talking, we're just like 3 minutes, play the Jethro. You know,
I think starting next week, or maybe starting with the Bad Batch this week, you get 2 minutes. And you have to say all your connections in that time.
Because I know for a fact you'll have so many connections to make.
Do you see what's going on here? Do you see what's happening? You see, like this thing. I created this thing. I would be perfectly willing just like be this little thing. No, they encourage it. They make a whole intro for me. They're like, do it more. And they're like, oh no, there's too much. There's too much connections. You gotta slow down. You gotta stop. Taking over the show. Guys, we encourage you to do it, but stop.
Yeah, basically. What, you never seen a hypocrite before? All right. Let's hit some super chats. From Joel. It says it can't be a coincidence that Dr. Pershing is talking about cloning and mixing DNA in the opera house that Palpatine mentioned Plagueis in episode 3. I'm getting Snoke vibes big time. Yeah, probably. It's probably something, probably a little wink and a nod, a little Easter egg for everyone who is looking for those sorts of things, because seems to be a strong connection there, a future Ben's Connection Corner, if you will.
Okay, bonus connection.
Oh, let me play the song.
No, hell no. Little song's gonna be longer than my connection. I like the idea that, like, in Bad Batch, they're like, oh, the Empire wanted to control the cloning technology. That's why they destroyed Kamino. Well, they also killed Pershing because he was out there going to do some good stuff with cloning thing, and they don't want anybody else cloning stuff. They don't want anybody else doing stuff. So it's basically the same logic. Yeah.
Next super chat from Joel says, this episode showed me that the biggest failing of the New Republic early on was being too forgiving and tolerant of former Imperials. Hard disagree. Hard disagree. Really? Yeah. You gotta give people a chance. You gotta give people a chance.
Well, that's fair, to a point.
And I think there are many other failings of the New Republic, many of which I laid out earlier, that I think are bigger problems than, there being too many ex-Imperials, because most people, or a lot of people in the galaxy, did work for the Empire, and you got to give them a chance. And I do think Dr. Pershing, if Elia Kane hadn't gotten in his ear, would have been perfectly happy living out his life as a New Republic data analyst or scientist or whatever he would go on to become. But she did, she's the case for not doing it. But we saw all those other ex-Imperials in the episode getting on just fine. And so I think I don't think that's the biggest failing. I think the biggest failing is that the New Republic just basically said, all right, we're going to put up the rebel starboard and say, and start to change things a little bit, where we're not going to do enough to change things in the long term. Joel says, theory, Bo-Katan is intentionally joining the Children of the Watch. I don't think she accidentally joined the cult. I think it's part of her plan.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
She's playing them.
It was noticeable. It was noticeable that even as soon as she'd come out of the water, the helmet stayed on, and it never came off again. Like, normally when she's piloting, the helmet comes off. But in this whole sequence, the helmet stays on.
I don't think that was a conscious choice, though. I think that was an accident until that point.
Oh, okay.
She just was like, oh, yeah, dropping off my bud.
She didn't know where she was going up until that point.
Is it? Yeah, are you agreeing? Yeah. Is that?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Well, the first time we see Bo-Katan in the episode of Friend Denis, she never takes her helmet off the entire time. And that was because her character model hadn't been created yet. But still, the point stands.
Yeah, true.
Yes.
All right. Next up, hope that one day a show or book gives us how Thrawn, Gideon, and the First Order and Palpatine are all relate to each other or don't to each other during this time. I hope that the show just does that. Because like these are all things that I think the show is going to deal with. I think the show will reveal that information through its story one way or another.
Right.
Joel also says the tragedy of Pershing is that he didn't come to realize that the work itself is basically eugenics and a morally dubious prospect. Fair. Joel says my hot take is that the New Republic is Saw Gerrera. My hot take on the New Republic is that Saw Gerrera was right and wouldn't have just taken down the Empire, but the institutions that propped it up.
Yeah, he would totally
Possibly.
be around. If he was still alive, be like, lies, deceptions.
Yeah.
Take death to the New Republic.
Yep. He would not stand for it. Would not stand for all those rich jerks.
Andor. I just started thinking about the conversation that Saw had with Luthen about Krieger, the freaking main character, the main plot of the finale of Andor was like Krieger as someone we don't know, like dying, and Saw's like, why would you kill him? And then Luthen's like, well, if Krieger, they know I know Krieger, they'll find me. And Saw's just like, but who else would you kill?
I think
human cultists.
I think this is the beginning of a new segment. Hannah reenacts scenes from Andor.
Please.
From memory, by the way.
From memory. Yeah,
you're not allowed to
just-
rewatch the scene.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
Next super chat, Joel also says, I think season 4 of Mando could be the season that really climaxes all of the shows since it'll be aired after Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew. Possibly, although I don't think season 4 will be the be all end all for the Mandoverse. I think there's more to come afterwards. And finally, Joel clarifies the New Republic decommissioned fleet situation, saying the New Republic has a fleet, but Mon Mothma decommissioned 90% of it, and the last 10% was for peacekeeping and diplomatic things. So there you go. That's what happened to the New Republic fleet. Okay. I think that's everything. I think it's time to begin to wind things down and go around the table one last time, give some final thoughts and scores out of 10 for Chapter 19, The Convert. Ben, start us off. Final thoughts, score out of 10.
Yeah, like I said, I thought this episode was brilliant on many different levels. I mean, obviously, major nostalgia points for a great representation of Coruscant, going back to this planet. I mean, yeah, all the joke all you want about Andor, but it really is really interesting to see Coruscant for the first time in a long time, but at two different points in its lifespan. And, going back to it after the Empire's fallen and seeing that it is a lot the same, but also different. I think that's a lot to do with just these two shows' approaches to the planet and how it chooses to portray them. But also I think it's, all in how the state of the galaxy is right now. So really interesting, really stunningly beautiful. I think this show is, for all the complaints about volume, no volume, whatever, I think this episode really shows that like they found the right balance of, special effects and CGI and sets and volume and things. Like there's some really, really impressive camera work here. Shout out to Lee Eisen-Chung, who really just knocked it out of the park, I think, as a brilliant episode, some really great acting, and just really engaging scenery that made this, just made the world feel real, I think, even more so than we have previously seen this show. Yeah, I do have an issue with the pacing. I do have an issue with kind of getting to the episode going like, where I feel like they could have stuck to landing a little bit better. They could have been a little more clear what was going on, but I will give them, I like I said, I think they're setting up something. I think we're going somewhere with the story, and I think we're not going to get all the answers when as quick as we want them to, because I think this is going places. I think what this episode sets up will pay off in later seasons of The Mandalorian and Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew and Rangers of the New Republic, if that ever happens. There's a lot going on here, and I, especially after Andor, can appreciate some political intrigue and adding more layers to this story, because I think it really needs it. And I think it's kind of sad that it's taken this long, because I think in a perfect world we would have got this story in like 1984. Like, imagine seeing this right after Return of the Jedi and like understanding all the ramifications of what happened after Return of the Jedi back then. And yeah, it's doing a lot for the sequel trilogy. I think it's going to make those movies even more compelling in the future. All that said, I'm rambling. This episode was great. I did have a few qualms, but overall, I will give it an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10 from Ben. Hannah, what about you? Final thoughts and scores out of 10 for this one?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what you've just said, Ben. I think, yeah, the nostalgia really, really hit me in this episode, and I was just so thrilled with those scenes. And the opening scene, I think, was just awesome. And, you know, 11 minutes in, and we got that awesome, the dynamic between Bo and Din, interesting storyline. I was gearing up for 56 minutes of that, and like just awesomeness. They'll fly somewhere. It's bombed. Oh my god, where are they going to go now? I was ready for that to be an hour long. So a little bit disappointed, but I can still see the value of the story we went. Still not my favorite. I just felt like it went really long. Lots of just walking down a corridor. And a little too Andorish for me. So the middle part is like a 5 out of 10, but the starting in the beginning was like a 10 out of 10. So I'm going in the middle with a 7.5 out of 10 for this episode for me.
7.5 out of 10 from Hannah. Hannah, do you want to also give us your score for last week's episode? If you've got one off the
episode. What was last week's? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. 9 out of 10 for that one.
9 out of 10. Okay, good. No further questions.
Okay.
Just sprung that one on you. I really enjoyed this episode. I think this is my favorite episode of the season so far. I loved how Andor it was. I thought that was really fun, and I was been waiting to see this side of the story explored. Dr. Pershing has been a character that's been a bit of an enigma to me, as and a puzzle that I've enjoyed sort of having sort of pop up every couple of episodes, once or twice a season. So I enjoyed that, and I liked finally getting to, you know, follow him for an extended period of time, and bringing in Katie O'Brien as Elia Kane to kind of play off of him and be a foil to him, I thought was really terrific. And I loved their dynamic. I loved their back and forth. And I loved how, like, the whole time you're kind of thinking, she's evil. She's got to be evil. She's got to be evil, right? And then, but at the same time, she's doing enough that I'm questioning myself. Is she really evil? And then at the end, when the spotlight is on him and she takes the stuff away and kind of takes the bucket of supplies away from him, and you're still kind of left wondering, okay, who is she loyal to? Who is she supporting? And it all sort of comes into focus at the end when she cranks the mind flare up to 11 and does in Dr. Pershing's mind that, oh, she's still serving other masters out there. So I loved that. And of course the Din and Bo stuff, as I talked about, really good stuff, challenging Bo-Katan on her ways a little bit, as well as Din Djarin. I thought that was a nice wrinkle, a nice layer to this story, as was seeing the many flaws of the New Republic, which, while better than the Empire, still has a long way to go. And we know ultimately it doesn't get there. So I'm going to give this one a 9.5 out of 10. Still leave him a little bit of room to cross the threshold and hit the 10 out of 10 point that the Bad Batch has hit 4 times so far this season. All right, that is going to do it. That's where we will begin to wind things down for this Mandalorian discussion episode. We will be back this weekend to discuss the Bad Batch. Keep an eye on your social media feeds if you want to join us live. Right now, it's looking like we'll record it on Friday evening, Friday night. So be on the lookout for that if you want to join us live, or just keep your eye out on your podcast feeds sometime on Sunday for the actual release of the episode. Ben, thank you as always for being on.
Yeah, it was a pleasure as always, and I'll try to do a little more editing on the connections next time. Okay, I'll try. No promises, but just if it's less than 10 minutes, just be glad. Okay, just be happy that. And know that this is all your fault. It's about 5% my fault, but most of it's your fault.
Yeah, sure. Blame me for
all you studio audience people clapping about it, clapping there, and then it goes 5 minutes longer than you want, and you're like, boo! Like, give me a break.
Yeah. Blame me. All I did was force you to do a segment you came up with again and again, come up with a brilliant song, and then happen to be childhood friends with the guy who came up with who put the music to the song and made it awesome. So yeah, all my fault. Blame me for Ben's Connection Corner. Notice it's not Dominic's Connection Corner, it's Ben's Connection Corner.
I tried to give it to him last week, he wouldn't take it.
Yeah, no, I'm not taking it. Hannah, thank you for joining us. Thank you for stepping up this week. Behind the scenes, Hannah wasn't going to be on this week, but she jumped in and said, I'll do the first hour. We just hit the second hour. You never told me you wanted to leave, so I never.
Yeah,
now.
I just remembered that actually. It just dawned on me. I'm like, oh yeah, I do. Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be here.
Oh yeah, that's okay. I'll just be late for everything for the next day now.
Perfect.
No, it was great to be here. No, I definitely had to come on when we just got all the nostalgia, and then when we got an Andor episode in the middle. I was like, dude, I have to talk about this with the guys. Like, because it's just so iconic how much I don't enjoy Andor. So yeah, it was really fun breaking it down. No, I'm surprised. Actually, I do have to say one last statement about it.
Okay.
If this was an episode of Andor, which I know it can't be timeline-wise, like different, but it just somehow if this was at the same period and this was an episode of Andor, this would be my favorite episode of Andor. Let me just say that, like that's my rating of it. But no, great to be here another week, and yeah. Gonna be an interesting show tomorrow about Bad Batch.
I'm so looking forward to it. And of course, check out the Raeside for more content from Hannah. I forgot to bring up the chat's scores out of 10, so we'll do that now. Joel gave the episode 8 out of 10. Matthew Hardy went 7.5 out of 10. Brooke went 8 out of 10. And earlier in the show, Tony gave us scores for chapters 17, 18, and 19. 17 was 7.5, 18 was 8.5, 19 was 9 out of 10. So slowly climbing up the rankings for Tony this season has been. And of course, make sure, what do we do at the end of the show? I don't know. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify. Subscribe on YouTube. Never miss an episode. All that good stuff. Follow us on social media at the SWU. I'm at Dominic J25. Ben is at Ben Hart with no E. Chris is at Seek3PO. And Hannah is at the Raeside. And keep an eye on my social media this weekend because I'll be at Toronto Comic Con. So I'll be posting lots of fun stuff. Also at Toronto Comic Con this weekend, Emily Swallow, the Armorer. Also at Toronto Comic Con this weekend, Andy Serkis, Kino Loy. Also at Toronto Comic Con this weekend, Andy Serkis, Supreme Leader Snoke. There's only 2 Star Wars guests, but 3 characters across the 2 of them, so we love it. And of course, between the shows, make sure you join up in the Star Wars Underworld Discord to keep the conversation going. And if you want to buy merch and stuff from Culture Slate, you can do that at cultureslate.com/store. And become a channel member here and get just the good feeling inside that you're supporting the show.
Your reward is joy.
You get a really cool clone number, okay? You get to be a clone trooper in our clone army. It's only like 5 people, but it's growing, okay?
005.
Yeah. Got more scores out of 10. Our buddy Din F105 gets it 11 out of 10.
Yeah.
And Chosen Night Wolf. Chosen Nightwolf gives it a 9 out of 10, saying it's an excellent episode, but they're waiting for the story tie-ins. All right, that is going to do it for this week. We will see everybody this weekend for the Bad Batch conversation. Until then, for Ben, for Chris, for Hannah, for all the other wonderful people at the Star Wars Underworld, my name is Dominic, and may the Force be with you.
If they know I killed Krieger, they'll know I know about the Empire.
But who else would you kill? To save yourself, would you kill me?
I'm gonna try and do the other Moncala, but I don't think I can. Son, I've had this machine myself. It's a wrap.